Our guest is Sharon Atieno. Sharon is the Gender and Advocacy Officer at Practical Action East Africa. We want to talk about gender equality for an inclusive energy transition. Sharon, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Sante.
That is called the hot seat. So, because it's about energy, so we'll call it the hot seat. All right. But let's begin with some definitions. Energy transition. When you talk about energy transition, what exactly does that mean?
Energy transition is a structural shift in the energy sector, basically trying to move from the traditionally used fossil fuels and encouraging adoption of cleaner and renewable energy options. Yes.
In English?
We are trying to encourage adoption of renewables.
All right.
For example, traditionally we had our mothers or grandmothers using largely wood fuel. We are currently seeing more people shifting towards charcoal, which still isn't clean. We are trying to push for adoption of petroleum gas, for example. Still not that clean. But we want to go towards cleaner options like electricity. We're trying to look at other options like solar. Yes. So basically, we're trying to move from unclean energy sources that are not sustainable towards more cleaner solutions within the energy sector that are deemed to be sustainable and therefore do not deplete natural resources.
It's interesting because you talked about our mothers and our grandmothers as the ones who use these resources on a regular basis, right? So then, if we're talking about the transition, obviously it seems to be gender skewed. Are women and children, the gender debate now in this transition debate, why is it important then to include them?
When you look at SDG 7, it looks at universal access to clean and affordable energy. Universal access means not leaving anyone behind. It requires us to have both men and women in this debate. It requires us to consult both men and women. But when we look at the energy sector right now, that is not the case. First, we need to acknowledge the fact that the energy needs for men and women are different. For a woman, for example, my need would be in the kitchen. For a man, it would be in terms of having connectivity for his TV, for example. So our energy needs in terms of men and women are different. Our representation in the energy decision-making tables are different. And this is because we have fewer women in science and technology courses and in that broader field. So by virtue that we have fewer women in this energy sector, and yet when you look at domestic level, they're the ones who really decide which fuel to use, also the extent to which energy is utilized within the household. It simply means when they're not engaged in this decision-making tables or even at the point of planning and designing clean energy solutions, then their needs and requirements are most likely going to be left out. So for us to holistically achieve universal energy transition, then we really need to bring women into this discussion.
You do know that as we speak right now, if you're talking about policy or decision-making positions, that the energy sector right now in this country is populated seriously with women.
A very big plus for Kenya, I would say. But when you give it a global view, when you look at the energy space, right now we only have up to 32% female representation in the energy sector. This is from a study that was conducted by IRENA International. 32% is not largely populated. Coming down to the Kenya sector, I would say we are trying, considering the fact that our energy sector has recognized the need to mainstream gender or integrate gender in energy planning and policies, appreciating the fact that at least right now our CS for energy is a woman, Honorable Monica Juma, a very good plus. And Kenya being one of the first countries to come up with a gender policy for the energy sector, recently launched, was locked in. So, of course, we acknowledge the fact that there's some work going on, but we also have to be real to the fact that we are not yet there.
What would there represent when you actually get there and you feel, now, this is what we were gunning for? What would it look like?
We are looking at more representation. Yes, we still want more women in that decision-making table. 2, we are looking at going beyond seeing women as passive victims within the energy sector. Passive victims, I mean, we say women are disproportionately advantaged within the energy sector, especially when you look at, for example, the cooking sector. A large percentage of Kenyans still using firewood. 2019 census indicated up to about 70% still using firewood. This simply means, in terms of health, more women, the ones who cook using firewood, are at risk for respiratory infections. 2, the time they spend collecting the fuel that they want to use, for example, is quite a lot, especially when they're not utilizing energy and efficient technologies. And what that simply means is this time that they would maybe input into more income-generating activities or development for their own selves is being spent in collecting that firewood. Thirdly, we look at the drudgery associated with this. If you're not able to access solutions and equipment that can help you do your day-to-day activities much faster, it simply means more time wasted and therefore more energy poverty. So therefore, we are not there yet.
But Sharon, you said that women are the decision makers at household level on the choice of energy.
Sure.
So already at that level, the women have made the decision that this is what we're going to use. We're going to use firewood, or we're going to use LPG, or we're going to use solar. And they also have the decision on what to purchase. Then at policy level, at national level, you're saying that in Kenya, for instance, we're seeing women in leadership in various ways where they can influence energy decisions at national level and at the grassroots level. So Minister for Energy, Kenya Power, KenGen, Kenya Pipeline. If we talk about taxation and taxation measures that then would encourage uptake of clean energy, in Parliament, chair of the Finance Committee, who would look at the finance bill and say, do not tax this. Woman, what more do we need?
Women are the decision makers at household level, you're right. But do they have adequate control over the resources within the household? The answer is no. They're also limited with availability of some of these technologies. And that therefore leaves them to utilize what it is that they're able to access at that given time. So basically, when you're trying to look at the engagement, we need to address issues of control of resources. Because of their low income compared to men, many times they have to rely on what the husband would provide, for example. If I'm given money for my day-to-day use, you'll have to look at how much is going towards food, how much is going towards fuel. But if I was empowered to be able to access more income myself and possibly contribute to what you're using within the household, I would want better. I would not want to be in a kitchen where it's all smoke. I would want to be in a cleaner kitchen, for example. But when I'm not able to afford LPG gas, for example, I would go for what I am able to afford.
This argument implies that the man is working against the woman's wishes and decisions.
No. I do not think...
Because you're saying, so the woman has the power to make choice of the energy choice, but the woman does not have the financial capacity, and the person who has the financial capacity is the man, and it sounds like the man is then working against the woman's choice.
The gender discussion has never really been about the man being against the choices the women can make. It's more about looking at what a partnership between the man and woman can really achieve. We're looking at men as more empowered in the society, and women as a resource with potential that has not been fully tapped. So basically what we're looking at is what would happen if the empowered man is able to join hands with a woman who is also empowered. The result is going to be definitely double and even better. So just like I was saying, I do not think any man of sound mind would want to give like little resources to the family when he's able to provide. So what we want to see is how best we can invest in this, in the potential of this untapped resource to holistically build up the society and achieve holistic development.
What would the participation look like, Sharon? What would participation of women look like in this? Men and women across board. Because here we are saying that there's a debate that's happening at this level, right? People are making decisions about energy and use in the country. And then we have this lower strata of folks who have to basically use what they have because they can only afford. But if they had a choice, that they would obviously pick the better, safer option. So how would they then be able to participate in this conversation that's happening up here?
One very simple approach would be investing in the entrepreneurial potential. And secondly, looking at their role as change agents, considering their social placement in the community. In terms of the entrepreneurial potential, currently we have a significant proportion of women groups that are making clean energy solutions, like briquettes, for example, as a source of fuel, like improved cook stoves. We have the Uhai and Upesi jikos, for example. So if we could build their capacity in terms of improving quality of products made, link them to markets, link them to finance so that these businesses can come up, then we're going to have a stronger force of women coming up in the energy sector. And one thing I like about what the grassroots women are doing is it is, one, affordable. Two, they are already in the community and therefore very accessible. So this helps to address the issues of accessibility and affordability. When you look at women as agents of change, again, when you look at these women groups, for example, they have broad social networks in which they have already built trust among these networks. So basically, investing in them again and giving them an opportunity to loudly talk about the importance of adopting clean energy solutions, and also just being able to refer other community members to where they can get these, then can give community members and women an opportunity to be felt within the energy sector and also reach more community members. So for me, that is how their role there would be seen. But again, we do not limit women's contribution to the energy sector to community level. We are happy that we are seeing more women coming up at policy level, but we want to see this going beyond roles being appointed. We want to see budgets being allocated with a gender-sensitive approach or lens to it, looking at both matters of electricity and also clean cooking. And I stress clean cooking because clean cooking is largely a gender issue, which is doing badly globally and even in Kenya. Right now, we take pride in seeing more households being connected to electricity. But when you talk about clean cooking, we're still looking at about 2.6 billion people without access to clean cooking solutions. In Kenya, we are still at about 70% not being able to access clean cooking solutions.
And why is that?
It comes in different folds. First, in terms of investment, when our budgets are being made, the investment that goes towards clean cooking is very low. Second, discussions around clean cooking are still not as loud. It's actually looked at as an orphaned sector. So clean cooking still not that loud. But also because when we talk about carbon emission, many people look at the transport sector, lighting sector as more of those that contribute towards climate change. But in real sense, at household level, we cook more than 3 times every day. When we continue using unclean fuels, it simply means we're still contributing to a larger percentage to greenhouse effect in our society. So this then requires that we accelerate the voice of need to invest in clean cooking.
You know, as you talk about clean cooking, and you have mentioned gas intermittently, I have looked at how the electricity sector have tried to make electricity more user-friendly with the introduction of tokens.
Yeah.
Now, gas is readily available. Is it possible for gas to be sold in the same way? Meaning you pay for what you use.
It would be a very good thing to have it.
It actually exists. That's why I'm actually bringing it up. I've actually seen it, not been told, where gas tank as usual, and a gadget. So you literally pay for what you use. You use it, it's tabulated, they have an amount, and that's what you pay. So it makes gas affordable. You see, an entire cylinder is now 3,000, I think 350. That's 13 kg.
Yeah.
That is beyond the reach of very many people. Okay? But if innovations such as this one are proliferated and people get to know more of it, then this push to get people away from using biofuels and using things that are not environmental friendly would be a lot easier.
I totally agree with you.
Yes.
Affordability of some of these clean energy solutions is one main hindrance to achieving the ultimate energy transition goal. And as you rightfully say, when you look at electricity, for example, payment through token simply means I do not have to have 1,000 shillings to light my house. You go to the solar sector, for example, because they have the pay-go system, which means I can pay a down payment of 500, for example, and then a daily payment of approximately 25 shillings. Makes it also affordable. But for the clean cooking sector, again, I would say we are not there yet. And that calls for the need to look at more affordable pricing models that can be implemented to help more people access this. So yes, would be good to get to a point where we can be able to buy gas, for example, at quantities that I can be able to afford, as opposed to going for the whole cylinder. But in Kenya, we are not there yet. A very good suggestion, yes.
Actually, we are there. That's the point I'm making. There is an organization called Gas. I even know the name. It's what they do. And the very thing you've discussed is what they present. They work in the Kibera area, part of the Kilimani area. The point I was trying to make is that when you push the agenda that you're pushing, which is a delightful agenda, and I think it is important, the idea of centralizing the discussion around the empowerment of women, excellent. There is always a little detail of having people within your sector understanding and keeping abreast of all these innovations that keep coming up. It can't be that you're doing what you're doing and also be in touch with these things. There has to be a group who do precisely that, because as I said, it exists in this country and it's there even as I'm talking to you now.
It's even been a government policy on making gas more accessible. That's why you saw companies like National Oil and Gulf Energy coming up with the refillable cylinders. Small, you can refill gas for as little as 50 bob, which is equivalent to buying a gorogoro of Makaa. But the problem again comes with the same policy that is pushing for this. Is the same policy makers who will come and heavily tax LPG.
So it becomes unaffordable
And
again.
the same thing you're saying. So there's a push toward this, but it sounds like the same push is being pulled by government introducing heavy taxes on this. So it makes it less affordable to get LPG, less affordable to get electricity. We're talking about electricity. Electricity is expensive.
It's extremely
Unit.
expensive.
We're talking about solar panels, steel, getting those installations in the country. How much is policy taking us towards that? And I think let's continue the conversation on that note after we take this break, looking at what do we need to do to see gender equality for an inclusive energy transition. What is it that we are doing in terms of energy transition? Sharon Atieno is a gender and advocacy officer at Practical Action East Africa. So she'll tell us what they have done so far to push for this inclusive energy transition and what policy needs to do to get us to that point. 29 minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation, live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, on YouTube, and on Facebook. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room.
Our guest, Sharon Atieno, gender and advocacy officer at Practical Action Eastern Africa. We're talking about gender equality for an inclusive energy transition. What is it that Practical Action East Africa is doing in this space, and especially to promote the issue of gender inclusivity and gender equality?
At Practical Action, we believe in energy that transforms. And as we implement our energy that transforms change ambition, we continue to envision a world that works better for everybody. At the core of our work is a vision to try to address issues of gender inequality And particularly in the energy sector, what we're trying to do is build the capacity of women, empower them economically as we strive to create an enabling environment to enhance the existence and the voice within the energy sector. We are currently implementing a project called Women in Energy Enterprises in Kenya, in short, WEEK. This project works with 400 women in 7 counties in Kenya. And what we do with them is we try to build their business skills. We link them to markets. We link them to financial support from formal financial services, but also at their own level, we try to encourage village savings and loaning as a way of inculcating a savings culture, as we try to enhance access to finance, which sometimes is difficult for women-owned businesses to access. So our approach to our energy work is an entrepreneurial approach, and we're implementing a business model that encourages women in the energy sector to adopt technologies, linking them to private sector, especially those in the solar sector, because we do not produce these products. So our women are in 4 different value chains. One is they make briquettes as fuel. 2 is they make and produce improved cook stoves. 3rd is they promote solar home systems as a means of clean lighting within the household. And lastly is productive use of energy, which tries to address drudgery associated to inavailability of technologies and equipment that can help hasten the domestic chores. So these 400 women at community level serve as change agents. At their very own grassroots level, they're able to convene community members to teach them about the importance of utilizing clean energy. And the good thing is every time they talk about them, then they have these products. So community members are able to get them. Beyond what we do with them directly, which also includes provision of revolving funds, continuous mentorship, and the linkages that I've also talked about. We also engage at policy level, both national level and the county level. I earlier talked about the gender policy for the energy sector, which is one policy that Practical Action really prides itself in having actively participated in development to the point of launch. And at the moment, we serve as vice chair for the gender committee that really tries to oversee implementation of this policy. At county level, we also just try to work with the government to try to invest in one renewable energy, which for a very long time has been a forgotten sector, mainly because of limited budgets and the emphasis that was put on electricity, the street lights and household electricity. So we try to remind them that access to energy goes beyond electricity, but we also just need to come down to this clean cooking aspect. So basically, that is the work that we have been able to do at Practical Action. And we are seeing significant successes in terms of community acceptance, in terms of accessibility of this product, in terms of agency empowerment for these women, many of whom at the point when we were recruiting them, did not even believe that their businesses could impact the societies in the ways that they have. And right now they can proudly stand up and talk about how they've been able to change lives in their communities. I particularly like one story from a group we support in Kakamega. They're around Kakamega Forest, and that community, they used to have many of them having to go to Kakamega Forest itself to collect firewood, and they would do that every other day. But since we started working with this group, it's called Valonje Mhonje. Since we started working with this group that produces briquettes, it produces improved cook stoves, and also sells solar. The community say they do not have to go to the forest as much as they used to go. And going to the forest for them was a security risk. You never know who you're going to meet. And yes, there's stories in the community of those that unfortunately fell victims. So right now, the community is happy. When you want to tell the story of Valonje Group, you do not even need to go to the community members, to the group members themselves. The community tells the story. The area chief tells the story. And this is one group that has also produced a woman who, out of her work, was fronted by her community to be appointed as an assistant chief, a role that she never thought she would ever play. And the best part about it is for her work in promoting clean energy is deeply embedded into her, so that in as much as she's now an administrative leader, anytime you walk into her office, you would still get clean energy solutions being showcased in the office.
You talk about I'm still going back to that. You talk about the importance of having women at these decision-making positions. How do you see the direct impact that having a woman sitting in this position, or having somebody, not necessarily a woman, but somebody who has come to grips with the situation here, whether it's cooking, whatever it is, having somebody who is in touch with that situation at that decision-making level, what difference then would you see? What would be the trickle down?
We would have more research being carried out at community level to be able to identify the exact gendered barriers within the energy sector. These results would then inform how the money is supposed to be invested. Currently in Kenya, we are suffering from lack of data. We do not have sufficient data in terms of energy access before we even go to the sex aggregated data. So if we have somebody who really understands the gender differences in energy and even in other broad development indicators, then they would really invest in data first, and also try to use this data to inform decisions in terms of this investment, and beyond investment, designing programs and policies that would then ensure that everybody in the community is incorporated into this development agenda. Yes.
So here what you're saying, you've done at community level, you've influenced policy formulation, you have influenced community leadership. At county level, is there anything that you've done to influence budgetary allocation towards clean energy? And especially when you're talking about, one of the greatest challenges that the community has and the people who are going into enterprise is access to finance, in terms of like credit guarantee schemes by the county governments, so that the people who want to go into the clean energy business are able to have cheaper access to credit. Are there such kind of things that you're doing?
Yes, at county level, yes, we have tried to engage policymakers. I wouldn't say we have had much success in terms of budgetary allocation, but we have had the counties, one, we have achieved their goodwill. Two, we have had specific counties just trying to chip into activities that are geared towards awareness creation of clean energy technology, something that previously did not exist in their budgets. Migori County, for example, supported an energy trade fair, specifically for community level producers of clean energy technologies to be able to teach community members. That is one activity they have never implemented and didn't even budget for, but they fully funded that, just to see that they're currently seeing the importance of having this done. But beyond that, there's an ongoing project called Sustainable Energy Technical Assistance Program. And this tries to engage all the 47 counties in Kenya to create energy plans for the different counties. And in doing this, the gender is deeply embedded into it. So it has to look at both energy for lighting and energy for cooking. Therefore, at the end of developing these energy plans, if well done, then they're going to be able to definitely put budgets for these different activities, and at that point we're going to see a success. It is not a dream for the far future because these are discussions that are ongoing. It's a project that has been approved by the Council of Governors, and therefore once these county energy plans are done and they're going to be culminated into a national level plan, then we definitely will have a reason to push for budgets, and the county is also going to see reasons as to why they really need to do this.
We're at the stage of formulation of the next phase of county integrated development plans. Are you involved in those conversations? Are you sensitizing the community so that they can then bring their voice and make energy one of the key anchors of the next CIDPs?
Sure. What we have been able to do with the women that we directly support, because they're in groups, we try to create conversations between them and the counties. We try to give them an opportunity to share their plight with the counties, to talk about what is important to them, and therefore pushing the counties to be able to really consider this. And over and beyond just talking about their plights, they're also able to talk proudly about what they've been able to achieve, giving them a reason to be heard and to be recognized. With this, yes, there are already ongoing discussions about developing the county energy plans, and these are going also to be inputted into the round 3 of the CIDPs being developed. So once we have this captured in the county energy plans, then definitely they're going into the CIDPs. But even beyond the discussions we have with these decision makers, yes, we continuously keep our entrepreneurs updated of public participation opportunities where they can continue to voice this. So it's an approach that we are having both at policy level within the counties and also within the communities.
I'm curious to know. Sorry, Siti, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I insist.
I'm curious to know, Sharon.
Yes.
When you talk about, gender equality and then you're having conversations in the community, how is that received? Is it received from a point where you're putting gender, the male and the female gender, against one another, or is it positively being received?
When we started this discussion, before I got to the community level, even just at the policy level, where you'd expect that there's better understanding on matters gender equality, at first it was not very well accepted. It appeared as though we're trying to push for more opportunities for women, which then would mean the men would have to go home. Yeah. So it was not very well accepted at that point. But when you change the narrative to mean you do not have to go home, it simply means you need to understand the gender differences, the gender inequalities that make men or women more vulnerable and try to address them. Then yes, we got the buy-in. So that is the same approach we use in the community. When you talk about addressing gender inequality, we are not saying we want women to be loud or to be rude or to dominate. That is not what we are going for. We are, as I said, we are looking at a partnership between men and women, and we are looking at empowering the unexploited resource that is in women, and also just trying to convince them that when we are able to achieve the maximum that these women are able to bring to the table, then the society together is going to go up. But when we keep doing our projects and our plans in a gender neutral manner, an example I like to give, it's like having a food project, for example, throw it to the community, and this community is a community of animals. Animals consisting of a monkey, fish, an elephant. The food is on top of a tree, and you tell them, I'm here with a project of food and I brought it to you. Go in and get your food. It means the animals that can climb the tree are going to get more food. The fish would probably not get any food at all. But when we adopt a gender-sensitive approach in implementation, then it means we look at the needs of the different animals and see how best we can have this food reach them where they are. So basically, that is our approach. It's a partnership approach and not a competition approach.
Okay. Do you see that those, I'm looking at those now who are making the shift in this energy transition, is there an understanding of why? That you're saying here you are not using firewood, for example, anymore, has its health benefits. It also has its environmental benefits. Is there a fundamental understanding of this? Or are we just looking at what is more affordable? Because sometimes the more affordable trumps the health issue or the environmental issue. Where is the understanding that we see here?
With communities, it's more about what is more affordable at the moment. Hence the need for more behavior change communication and just coming up with a more compelling debate or argument for them to try to adopt these cleaner energy options.
Yeah.
But for those who have really understood it, yes, they're really buying it in. But even with the discussions around affordability, most of these clean energy solutions, when you get a good explanation as to why you really need to take it in, and you look at the longer picture, then you get to realize that they are more affordable in the long run. So in terms of deciding whether to look at accessibility or affordability, it really depends on the communication that you get. A good example I like to give, we have two types of jikos. One called the Kenya Ceramic Jiko. In short, we call it KCJ. And we have another one called Uhai Jiko. The difference between these two jikos, the Kenya Ceramic Jiko is the normal round jiko that you can use with charcoal or briquettes. The Uhai one is the one that it's a bit heavier and the top is a bit covered to mean it's able to contain more heat.
Right.
When you look at the type of materials that are used to make these two jikos, they're quite different. The Uhai Jiko can serve you for a much longer time. To buy it, you would need like 1,200 shillings. For the KCJ, you need about 450 shillings to get it. But you get to realize for Uhai Jiko, you can use it for as long as 5 years and even more. But KCJ, after some 5 or 6 months, you'll need to get another one. By the time you get to the 6 years, you realize you've spent a lot more money.
Sure.
So basically, it's about how we communicate and convince the community to want to invest initially, though at a high cost, on the cleaner technologies, but also just see that in the long run, they're the cheaper alternatives. And beyond just being cheaper in terms of buying it. For the Uhai Jiko, for example, it's energy saving, simply meaning I'll use less fuel and therefore saving more for other household expenditures.
So are we looking at something that's then serendipitous in nature, that the environment then is conserved as a result of this more affordable thing, that even though you may not be thinking about the health benefits and the environmental benefits, if the affordability is what we are going for now, and maybe it's just a better situation to operate within, then these other things come as a result of this initial action. And then is it then an acceptable way to go? If we can deal with the affordability, there are many other benefits that come along with it. So we can go that way, and these things come as a result of that.
I think it's better to give it a holistic approach.
Okay.
You could go for affordability, but the impact in terms of environmental degradation quite high. Therefore, you're not helping as much.
Okay.
You could go for affordability, but the impact in terms of health and even security for your household members, not as good. Therefore, it's better to look at all these aspects as a selling point for better or cleaner solutions, as opposed to just looking at affordability as a compelling reason to buy. Yeah.
What I'd like is for you to explain to me how it is you have gone about getting the community to actually understand these benefits. Because essentially, as you correctly put it, you are introducing change. And human beings, by their very nature, will resist change. Yes.
You're very right. I see many community members argue that, especially the ones that use the 3 stones, when they see a lot of fire, the flames coming up, then they feel it's hotter. And that is why when you talk to them about these other energy options, where they do not really see the flames up high, then they're like, this will not cook my food.
Iko na moto kidogo.
Yes. And this is something that is deeply rooted into them and requires a constant conversation. Behavior change, we say, is something that takes time. So you need to continuously talk about it, continuously show that it's working. So what we do is we demonstrate how they work. We demonstrate the fact that they're able to last even longer. We demonstrate that they're better for your health. For example, trying to compare charcoal and briquettes burning, you look at the smoke that could be coming from the charcoal or even the firewood compared to when you're using briquettes. So try to use demos as a means of communicating this. We use road shows, we use baraza forums, just to make sure this conversation is going on. But over and above that, as I said, we work with women and leverage on the social networks, people who already believe them. If I'm able to see my neighbor who I know very well taking up a cleaner energy option and coming to sell the same to me because she's seeing the benefit from her community, from her kitchen, then it's easier for me to be able to take it up. The adoption rate is not at the point at which we really want it to be, but in the immediate neighborhoods where our women entrepreneurs come from, we have seen significant adoption and uptake of these technologies. Yes.
How many counties are you engaged in this business of yours?
We are in 7 counties.
It's very good.
Yes.
And how did you determine these counties? What were you looking for when you determined where you should work, or why you work in these 7 counties?
We were trying to look at, from the 2019 census, the extent to which these counties were reliant on wood fuel, for example, and those that could not easily access clean energy solutions. And that is how we were able to reach at least 7. Of course, constrained by the budgets that we had to work with. We're not saying these are the only counties that really had low uptake of clean energy solutions. There are several more, but we chose to start with the 7 that we're currently working on, 5 from the Lake region, and then we have a part of Nairobi and a part of Makueni. Yes.
Those 7, actually. So is there a plan for saying in the first X number of years, we're going to be in the 7, and then we start expanding or moving out into new counties, new areas?
I would say that is largely dependent on availability of funds. Our project was a 3-year project, started in 2019, coming to an end. And of course, we are hopeful that there will be another phase of the project, and of course, an opportunity for us to get to newer areas. Yes.
What would it take to scale this project, to scale this conversation about energy transition and the uptake of clean energy in the country?
Institutionalization, very key, especially within the governments, national and county. And for me, institutionalization goes beyond creating policies. It includes allocating budgets. It includes them coming with their own projects. Therefore, being able to reach more communities. I mean, the government will always be there. So if they're able to have some projects that push for clean energy, then that is something we can say can be sustained. We need to have discussions with the private sector. Also just to see how best to invest in both men and women and find a business sense that would motivate them to want to invest in these people. We're having discussions with other partners. Of course, we know we have different energy projects within the country, some that are not quite keen on the gender issues, but we're having discussions with them just to try to see the reason why having a gender-neutral approach might not give us better deal as looking at these with the gender lens. And yes, we are seeing partners buying into the idea. We're seeing partners trying to remodel their projects. And just having this gender equality discussion as part of the proposals of the right being a winning point for some of them. So yes, I really feel we need to invest in institutionalization and budgeting. But over and above that, I feel we already have a significant number of both men and women at grassroots level that are really trying to contribute towards the clean energy agenda. Muga talked about being aware of the stakeholders that exist. So I feel these are a very important stakeholder that need to be mapped. I try to compare this to what we have in the health sector, the community health volunteers, recognized at grassroots level. Are we able to have similar, for example, for the energy sector, so that we know where these groups are, we know their capacity, and have a discussion about what we can do to make them more vibrant, to be able to reach a larger percentage of the community members. With that, then, I feel the domestic energy needs can easily be addressed and let the country continue investing in more national or industrial energy needs.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sharon, and all the good work that you're doing in the 7 counties and even at the national level in terms of being thought leaders on the issue of energy transition and bringing gender equality in this conversation. Thank you for joining us today. Come again soon. Sharon Atieno is the Gender and Advocacy Officer for Practical Action East Africa. She's been telling us about what the organization has been doing to promote and push for gender equality for an inclusive energy transition.